Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. It feels good to be back. I didn't make any uploads yesterday as I was looking into a new PC. I have ordered the new PC, so this should be great. This should mean that I'm able to download, upload videos a lot faster, and you should also see an improvement in the video quality, especially when we are streaming. So with all that being said, let's jump right back into the analysis because I will be back with the frequent uploads as always. Have you missed me, KDA fam? Let's check out what is going on today. Now I'm going to start off on the higher time frames, and I'm actually going to move over to the oscillators in just one moment because we are still seeing something very interesting. Over on our momentum indicators, really not a lot has changed, and this is why I kind of felt comfortable, leaving this chart for a few days. As I always say, I will update you the second I believe we are breaking bullish, but it seems like the bulls kind of maybe got out of bed a little bit too quick for this move on KDA. As far as I can tell, this was really just like another bunny hill. We talked about this where we've got, these bunny hills where on the squeeze mom, the bulls rather, they try and reverse this, but all we do is you have these bunny hills, and this is what I'm referring to on the price chart. You can see we have these tiny little hills where we come up and we retest the daily EMAs, and every single time we come up, test them and capitulate. So I still do think the altcoins and KDA specifically, obviously we're talking about KDA, is going to move lower. Bitcoin is still being hit pretty hard. We are in a falling wedge right now. Macro on balance volume is capitulating, and normally this is really not a good sign. So we've got a lot of signals that we could be moving lower. The dollar is also bullish. Being that the dollar is bullish, Bitcoin is bearish, ergo that's probably going to mean a very weak altcoin market, and this is really what we're seeing reflected in the price. On the weekly time frame, it seems like it's been a while since we made a video, so we're going to have to re-thicken these EMA ribbons, see whereabouts we are. It looks like this thick dark green moving average is moving down to this lighter green thicker moving average down here. So it looks like what this means is we could be setting up for a weekly bearish flip on Kadena very soon. And I've seen this happen a lot with a lot of these altcoins where you do flip and then you do come back up and retest. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point, and bear in mind this is a macro signal, like we haven't made an update on this in a few days, and this isn't even halfway down. So this is going to be something we're going to be keeping our eyes on in the next week or so. I do not expect any sort of moves to the upside, at least for a short period of time. Higher time frames as well, red green red formation. Doji candle got bought up very nicely. So yeah, this almost like a dragonfly doji candle. I would say it would be a perfect dragonfly doji if it just had a tiny bit extra on the top, but nonetheless this is one of your more bullish doji candles. But the fact that we didn't see continuation or we didn't see sideways accumulation, we saw a red green red breakdown into this with no kind of real subsiding. There's a tiny bit of subsiding going on the momentum, but I really do think once we start pushing lower, this is going to capitulate further. Not an increase in volume as well, which is another worrying signal. This kind of reminds me of what we saw here with a single green week worth of volume, and then we capitulate. And what I want to talk about on the oscillator front, as you can see, we're seeing a decent amount of bullish divergence at this moment in time. Now I'm going to pull up the cheat sheet. This is something that I'm going to be drawing to more often. I remember when I started trading crypto, I could just not for the life of me figure out what these oscillators, what these bullish and bearish divergences were. So this is such a great cheat sheet where you can kind of just look at the chart and kind of eye this up. So what you can actually see here is we are seeing strong bullish divergence. What this means is that, and bear in mind this is really only on the OBV and the money flow indicator, the RSI is going down, kind of meaning that we're not seeing any divergence from here. We had a high and we've moved down, the price had a high and it's moved down. But on the money flow indicator, we're seeing a very strong bullish divergence, and I would not take this to the bank. I would not take this to the bank whatsoever. I would be very cautious. Just take that with a grain of salt. This is a macro bullish indicator, but you know, it has yet to be seen whether we are going to play out a bullish reversal. I don't think we are. I don't think bullish reversals, as we're about to go into, you know, what in my idea, this is like a big capitulation event. On Bitcoin, I've highlighted this before. I do think we have a little bit further to move on Bitcoin, and how this, you know, affects KDA is, you know, obviously if I think Bitcoin's going to move further down, then KDA is probably going to get slaughtered against Bitcoin, and that is something we are going to check out in just one moment's time. We've looked at the oscillators on the daily time frame and lower time frame. We're unfortunately not seeing any types of divergence whatsoever. You do have, once again, a tiny bit of macro divergence on the money flow indicator. On the daily, for example, you've got low, high, low, and then over on here, you know, we've been moving down, so we're seeing some divergence on some of the higher time frames. That's not something I'd take to the bank. We're now going to pull up the KDA BTC chart for when we finish on that later. Let's jump into the lower time frames on KDA and look at what the momentum indicators are saying, because these are going to be, you know, indicative of what the next move is going to be. So looking at the daily time frame once again, if you've been watching my KDA videos since all the way back here, 8th of April, you know that it's a recurring theme. I love to say, you know, you look at this, you know, we're clearly in a downtrend. We come up, we retest the EMA ribbons, we retest, and we break down. And what do you know about these peaks? You can see we've got a high here, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. So it's very black and white. I could have honestly made this video in like 1 or 2 minutes, but I do like to go in depth, give a breakdown of everything that is going on. Everything looks like it's moving down. In the past day, let's check out the volume. 122,000 KDA sold in a single day. That is brutal. 122 here, 123. This was before the big capitulation, and then sometimes these bigger capitulation wicks actually do get bought up a tiny bit, but the fact that we've kind of just had this bunny hill, you know, historically speaking, this is normally the point where we do roll back down after getting these brutal rejections from the EMA ribbon. So like I said, you know, I haven't been posting KDA videos or altcoin videos for the past couple of days, but I have been telling you, you know, as soon as I see us having a reversal, I will be the first to let you know. If we're having a pump and I haven't made an update on it, I think it's a dead cat bounce. That's kind of the general rule of thumb on this channel. And as you can see, 4 hourly EMAs. What do I always talk about in my videos? When you're breaking out, when you're confirming a breakout of the EMA ribbons, you need to, there's 3 things you need to do. You need to break above, and then this is when you form an invalidation point. So if I put a horizontal ray, bang, right here you can see invalidation point, which we double topped on. To have a successful breakout, what you need to do is you need to break up above the moving averages, and then, you know, we didn't quite make it back down to the EMA ribbons here, but this is when you retest. So you've done 2 things. You've broken out, that step number 1, you've retested, then that step number 2. The most important thing now, step number 3, you need to break above this invalidation point and go upwards into price discovery. Until that happens, it is a fake out. And on the 4 hourly EMA ribbons, you can see we have once again done another fake out. Not a perfect M, as this is a higher high here, or at least in terms of the candle body close as it is. If you're drawing it from the wicks, it's actually once again another perfect M. What I really want to highlight here is no matter where you're kind of drawing these from, we are Ming out. And when do we see that we're Ming out? Well, it's very simple. You can see, you know, we M out normally most of the time after we come up into these EMA ribbons. It's a very recurring theme that we do this almost all the time. And the fact that we've got this McDonald's pattern as we're kind of moving down below the 4 hourly EMAs is very indicative to me that we are going to break down into the next bearish trend. You can see here, you know, the most recent bunny hill we had on the squeeze mom, and this bunny hill here on the squeeze mom, it was a quick capitulation after we did landslide into the red. Here you can see we're now moving into the red again. So on all time frames, I unfortunately do think KDA is bearish. Like I said, I'm a crypto YouTuber. I want more than no one for all the markets to be bullish all the time. It means I get more views. It means, you know, I have more positive things to to say, but you know, looking at this from an objective perspective, it is very, very evident that we are in a huge downtrend for me. I talked about this before, but the trend has been invalidated, the macro trend that is. I believe even if I draw it conservatively to the candle body close, you can see we're miles below the 786, and you know, I would really draw it from here, and then you can see, you know, you're light years away from your 786 Fibonacci. So all in all, tons and tons of selling volume coming in. 333,000 KDA sold in the past week. We're really not pushing up in terms of the macro squeeze bomb. We are having a tiny bit of bullish divergence on the daily and the weekly, but I do not think that's enough to kind of swing the markets in a different direction from where they are at this moment in time. Just because, you know, I do like being objective, and I do talk about every pattern that I see, even if I don't think it is going to play out, or even if it goes against kind of my theory, because I think we're moving down. But here you can kind of see there's a little bit of a slanted inverse head and shoulders pattern, and this is a bullish pattern. If we do break to the upside of this, you can actually see this would probably catapult KDA up a decent amount on the daily. This would bring us all the way up to $5.52. That would be a really nice trade. I might actually take this if it does break out. That is a very big if. I don't think we are going to be breaking out from this, but I will keep an eye on the trend line, and like I said, I do keep you updated on these time sensitive information. So if I do see, and I do think that we are going to be breaking out, I will be letting you know, because like I've been saying since we've been covering KDA at $6.50, I have wanted to buy. I haven't ever bought KDA, I haven't ever sold it, I've never traded it. I only really started covering KDA back at $6.50, and we've been religiously sitting on the sidelines waiting for this trend reversal, just acknowledging that we're going to get lower price targets if we don't kind of FOMO into every dip. And so far it's worked out perfectly. We didn't buy this dip, we didn't buy this dip, we didn't buy this dip, and it does look like we could be capitulating to another, you know, move to the downside. I personally predict that KDA could move down to the $1 mark. That is a very psychological level, and we also do have support more or less around the lows of the April 2021 accumulation range. I do also think this is a 1.618 fib. You've got a 3.618 fib here as well, and you've got the psychological level at $1. So in my opinion, the range between $1 and, where is the low here, and 79 cent is going to be a great place to pick up some KDA for the people who are patient enough to hopefully have this one out. And like I said, if we do have that trend reversal and we have to buy a breakout, you know, hypothetically we have a breakout and a retest of $4.47 on the EMA ribbons, that's still better than buying at $6.50 when we started covering this. I do think we are going to go lower. I'm not personally having any ranges where I 100% plan on DCAing. I'm really going to wait and see what the markets kind of tell me when we're moving down. You know, the dollar is extremely strong, stock market's bearish, Bitcoin's bearish, so I don't plan on, you know, assuming that I know where the bottom is here. I really want to wait for Bitcoin to make a macro move, like have a macro bottom, have that all played out, and then I think these altcoins are going to be a lot cheaper against Bitcoin, which brings us to the last part of this video. Let's check out what is going on with Kadena against Bitcoin. Now, the OBV is still quite strong, actually. Very strong, but the price action is slightly different. So also, if we do look at your oscillators, we already talked about this. We've got a tiny bit of bullish momentum. If you look here, this is a strong bullish divergence, rather, where you can see the price is going down, the oscillators going up. This is being the money flow indicator, and both. Let's see. So yeah, actually you could draw. Oh no, we could. Yeah, we could draw it from all the way down here, but still, I'm really not going to be focusing on that too much. What I think is very black and white on this is, you know, the trend is clearly invalidated at this point. You know, we're below the 786, we're having red, green, red candle moves below it, and also if you want to draw it from the candle body here, you can see once we kind of start capitulating below this level, which is only another 14% or so, then we are going to massively landslide. So this is pretty much your last line in the sand. If you do want KDA to outperform Bitcoin, which it obviously hasn't. Looking at KDA against Bitcoin, KDA is getting slaughtered against Bitcoin. You know, in the past 2 weeks or so, we're pretty much sitting at the same place, but this red, green, red formation, I'm telling you, this is nasty. The money flow heading down, the strength of the market exponentially diminishing. I honestly do just think that, you know, KDA against Bitcoin is very, very bearish. Once again, you know, a little bit of moon boy hopium, but you could see something like this, an inverse head and shoulders playing out. I don't think we're going to see any altcoins breaking extremely bullish against Bitcoin. So all of that wrapped up, it does seem like KDA USD is still bearish. I still do think we are going to be coming down to between $1 and potentially all the way as low as 80 to 79 cent. KDA against Bitcoin, trend is your friend until the end. Like I said, it is very, very obvious, at least in my opinion. I mean, you can draw this a plethora of ways, but we're clearly in a downtrend. Until we start making higher highs, until we start breaking out against Bitcoin, DCAing just does not make sense to me, because the more we sit on the sidelines for this, the lower it's going to go, in my opinion. I think KDA has a lot to move down in Bitcoin terms, even to revisit its low. We could see that being another 44% move to the downside against Bitcoin, and I think it's more likely we'd return to these lows. The 1.6 is also calling for a potential move if we do lose these lows. This could mean KDA could get absolutely wiped out against Bitcoin. I don't necessarily think we're going to break that bearish, but the charts do definitely seem like we could get very, very choppy in the short term. We also do have an accumulation range down here, so, you know, potentially we could see something like 67%. I do definitely see that being a little bit more likely than the other moves to the downside. The overall message of this is the trend is your friend until the end. I will be updating you once I do think KDA is breaking back bullish. Until then, absolutely nothing's changed. You can see we've had a very nasty rejection, another lower high, and people are dumping KDA like there is no tomorrow. That's all I've got. Be safe, food. Don't be someone else's exit liquidity. Don't try catch a falling knife. This is just my trading plan. I wish you the best as always. Cowboy out, not financial advice. Peace.